I love your chapter in OO about the woman who needed to sell her home and then called in divine order. However, I'm having problems being patient with divine order in real estate. In LA, there's a seller's market, which has driven up the prices of homes, and I worry that I will be priced out of the market if I don't act fast. Okay, now let me stop this thing right there because y'all know what I'm going to say, and it's not criticism. But all that thinking, this is why I wanted to read this letter. If you know that story in OO called, Without God, real estate is the perfect vehicle to see the utter insanity that you can get trapped in if you do things without God. It's like, oh my goodness, here's an offer, I better take it, somebody else is going to snatch it, oh, what if I lose my chance, blah, 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 blah. It's all from operating from the place that the small self is the one on the house hunt, the small self is the one that has to act from a place of panic. So I would go back, I'm going to read the rest of the letter in a moment, but right from the get-go, God's house, the perfect house is already selected. It does not matter if there are 100 people, all quote-unquote competing to get houses, or 1 million people. You will be guided to the right house at the right time if you actually let the divine pick the right one for you and ask to be guided, and you don't act from fear. It's actually exactly the same as partnership. Exactly the same with partnership. There are not 1 million people all competing for the few available partners, despite the fact that that's what the universe would, the culture would have us believe. It's not how it works. If you call in through the divine, the perfect partner is picked, guide me at the right time in the right way, that's how it happens. You can do it with houses too. I've done it with people back when I used to give readings. Hundreds of people found houses this way. It's how it works. So let me finish reading your letter, but I just have to say that. I'm in a panic and I made an offer on a house for more than I'm comfortable with. I fully understand that the bank pre-qualifies me. But she says, I'm secretly hoping that my offer isn't accepted because I don't feel ready, and I'm disappointed in myself because I can't get ready to make the purchase. So the question is, do I make an offer on a home like that, or do I wait for one that I love and feel comfortable making the payments for? So this is the thing, you go back to the divine. I don't think anybody could tell you yes or no, but I think you're answering your own question because you're saying, and I think somebody wrote this to you also on the Facebook page, somebody very smart wrote this. I think she said, pay attention to the fact that you're secretly hoping your offer won't be taken. That says a lot because that secret hope is often the inner self. So, to me, that's what I would do. I would get a coconut if you need the clarity, break the coconut to really say to the divine, the perfect house is picked, and say, if I'm not meant to buy this house, stop me. And I would say, if you sincerely pray that way, you will be stopped. Watch that over and over. And then start to say that the perfect place is picked. I just went through this with somebody I know in Santa Barbara. She really didn't want the house. And that's a really crazy real estate market too. It doesn't matter. She didn't really want the house that she was bidding on, and the entire thing fell apart. She offered it to the divine. Then she did get taken to a different place that felt right. This stuff is madness. If it's not genuinely offered to the divine, then yes, there's panic, there's fear, there's settling, there's grasping. I would go back again to offering it. So I hope that helps. It's just funny. I just feel drawn to tell you this quick story. It's not about real estate, but it just gives you an example about how this stuff really works, because the divine is outside of constraint. So when I was on the East Coast, it's such a silly example, but it just sort of sums it up. Some of you may know who Margaret Cho is. She's this comedian. And she was going to be playing in the town that I was staying in. So, it was like the tickets were all sold out, and there were people that were waiting in line to see if there were going to be returns. And I was just like, oh, I can't be bothered with any of this. So, and somebody said to me, well, the show is at 8, but you should get there at 6 and wait in line for 2 hours and see if there are any returns. And I just said, it doesn't matter. If I'm meant to go to this show, something will happen. And if not, the divine has another plan. Now, I understand this is about a show and not the house, but it's the same principle. But I got the message to just walk by the theater where she was. And this was actually, in the end, not at 6, not the 2 hours ahead or any of that. I walked by at about 10 minutes to 8, right before the show was happening. This gay guy comes running up to me, and he says, he goes, my husband and I are having a huge fight. He's threatened to divorce me. He doesn't want to come to the show tonight. Here's a ticket. Do you want to go? And that was it. He goes, I don't want anything. He goes, I have to go, save my marriage. So I ended up with this free ticket, and I just walked in and went to the show. And, again, that doesn't always happen, but it was such a perfect example of everybody's giving me this advice. The show's been sold out for a week. Nobody can get in. I'm like, you know what? If for whatever nutty reason God cares if I go see Margaret's show, I'll get in. And otherwise, I'll go do something else. And same thing with a house. It's like if you were meant to have that house, it would feel right. It would feel good. Even if it was a little scary, it would feel exciting. So if it's offered to the divine, that's what happens. Even when you're scared, it feels right. If it's not right, you have that feeling of panic, then you offer it back to the divine and you say, look, you know where you want me to be. The perfect place is picked. It's offered to you 100%. This isn't about, I really have to say this because it comes up so often. It's easy to get into the mentality of thinking offering to the divine is about getting the divine's help, like God's this assistant for getting what the ego wants, or another, God's like the valet, or God's the bitch, or whatever, to go here, you go get this for me. It's not that. You stop thinking of the house as actually being yours. You start thinking of it as, I am ready to call the divine in, that the perfect place for me to live is already selected. It will belong to the divine, even if you, quote unquote, own it. That's so different than trying to get the divine's assistance on your house. You see what I mean? That's why I think I was saying it on an earlier call. This getting rid of my is very liberating. You stop thinking, my house, my location, my price, my bank account, and you go, the divine has the perfect house selected for you. You'll be the steward. You'll take care of it. But it's a divinely selected house that actually will belong to the divine. And then you'll take care of it. I have to tell you one more thing about that because it just happened. Over the weekend, I was around this woman who owns a number of properties. And she was saying, very nice person, and she was saying, I'm really wanting, she goes, one of the properties, I'm really wanting to turn it into a spiritual center. And, she said, we'll have all these big names come through, we'll have all these spiritual teachers come through, and it'll be very spiritual. And I said, if you have big names come through, great, but that's not what will make it spiritual. What will make it spiritual is if you yourself offer the house to the divine. Then if the Dalai Lama or whoever wants to come and stay at your house, that's nice. That's like icing on the cake. But that's not what makes a house spiritual. What makes it spiritual, and you can do this with your own apartment, you could do it if you live in a hovel, is if you offer the space 100% to the divine and you say, let this be a home for you. You show me what you wish. Then, your space becomes sacred, whether spiritual teachers come through it or not, because it's your own holy self.